just in terms of, there were some quite incredible meetings that were held and quite angry people and that. Is that anger still there?
Yep. To a certain degree, it's just anger at different topics.
Yeah. And what are those topics now?
We got one part of our community that's in 2A, so the frustration of being in limbo and not knowing whether they're going to be put in 3 or 1, so they're just waiting, and that's really hard for them.
Yeah.
So that's one section. Then there's the category 3. A lot of people want to take a buyout, but they're frustrated that it's taken 7 months to get. Well, we're still no further forward yet, but 7 months to be able to move on, and then there's the people that want to stay, and the frustration and anger that there is no pathway currently for those to do so. They can choose to stay, but they'll have no support from the council. They won't issue permits, so it's not really a voluntary buyout at all.
And if you don't mind me asking, what category are you in? What's your property status of your property?
Category 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and what's your view on a buyout, or do you want to remain there?
Well, there'll be a buyout offer for our residents, but there's no buyout offer for the campground, of which I have a resource consent to operate.
And you've invested a lot in that campground, and it's a business.
Correct.
And if it was a normal situation, you would be able to sell that business, and for a fairly decent amount.
Correct.
So where are you at now? How are you fighting this?
How am I fighting it? Basically trying to lobby to get a new category so that we can utilise early warning systems like I did to keep people safe.
Yeah.
And it's hypocritical to say I can't live at my home, but I have a consent to run my campground, which includes an early warning system, and yet they aren't category 3ing their freedom campsites or the dock sites that got flooded.
Are they in the same sort of area?
Glen Falls,
yeah,
absolutely smashed by the flood. No talk about category 3 there.
Okay.
And there was no one there to give them any warnings. So how can they say that's okay, but it's not for me?
Yeah. So what are you going to do?
I'm rebuilding my business, and I'm going back. I have a resource consent to operate.
But you won't live there?
No, I can live there.
Yeah.
I don't have to take their buyout.
Okay.
So.
And how's that going to work for you? Because as you say, council resources and that sort of thing. So how will that affect you?
Well, I've got power, I've got water, I've got sewage. All they provide is a road that they maintain poorly.
Yeah. So this is a long road ahead. How are you going to get to a point where you're able to open and be running as a viable business again?
I would imagine I will be up and running by Labour Weekend 24.
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
So how are you surviving in the meantime, if you don't mind me asking? Yeah.
I've got new employment, so
okay.
Yeah, and the wife's just about to start some part-time work to fit in with the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I noticed you've got a Give a Little page as well that's been set up for you as well.
Yeah, some of our friends set that up for us,
that's
and
good.
Yeah, and our friends and family contributed generously, which helped immensely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what sort of mental toll has this taken on you and your family?
Yeah, it's pretty stressful. I think earlier on it wasn't as hard as it is now.
Yeah.
And early on you're just fighting for survival effectively, but not in that sense. But now it's more stressful because the uncertainty and the fact that the councils and the government can't just clearly say this and that is far more complicated than something like Christchurch, where it was just cookie cutter, all residential sections and houses. We have people with businesses, orchards that are only viable because you actually live there. it's not viable to have a 20 hectare block perhaps and then have to have a house somewhere else and pay mortgage on that and then have to drive all the way out there to have your machinery ripped off every 5 minutes by people that, because there's no presence on the land. So, it makes things hard. Yeah.
So has crime been an issue, and is it still an issue?
Yeah, things have been stolen, smashed up, scrap metal stolen, vandalism, just petty stuff really, but, for people that, some people haven't even had time to clean out their houses because they, A, haven't been able to access it, or B, face it, and then people have had like boxes of personal goods stolen and stuff like that, which I can't see any value to the criminals. It's just petty stuff. I don't know, I don't get it.
So you've seen the best and the worst of human behaviour, because obviously you've seen how the communities come up, and that. Has that given you sort of hope and sort of courage that the community is banding together like this?
Yeah, our community had a fantastic response and they're still supporting us. Some people are struggling facing what has occurred, and they're unable to go back. Everyone had a different experience on the night, so I think what experience you had definitely forms how you view things, and also, if you're younger or closer to retirement, all those factors have a big impact on how you view the situation and how they respond to it.
And now the response by the council and the response by the government, has it been the same? Is there a difference in the way the two have responded?
Well, I haven't seen anyone from Labour in the Valley yet.
Haven't you?
Not a single one.
So none of the local MPs?
I haven't seen Stuart Nash there, there's one or any of their 3 different cyclone ministers yet, no.
Because they say they're coming in and they've been there supporting the community.
Not to us.
Yeah.
The council, obviously the clean-up's going pretty well.
Yeah.
And that's really heartening. You can sort of see the light. That comes from the HBRC side more so. I think they've done a pretty good job on the clean-up, and hopefully that continues on. For HTC, they're sort of waiting on the categorisation, and there's a lot of unknowns still.
Yeah. Now there are 2 reviews, there are 2 inquiries that are underway. There's one at a local level, at the regional council level, and then there's one at the national level. What do you want from those reviews? What would be a good thing for you to come from those reviews?
Really simple. Set up flood evacuation plans with early warning systems for the entire country, for all of our riverside communities. That's what I want.
And do you want heads to roll for what happened?
Not necessarily, but it needs a very... I want to see the plans put in place, because I don't think there is a plan. And that's evident to me when there's water lapping over the back of the EIT stop banks and they haven't evacuated everybody. They should have been evacuating people when it was a metre or so off the top of the stop bank, not when it was damn close to busting it. That's what I want to see, and it needs to be reviewed. I'm not headhunting individuals, but the whole system needs to be revamped, and because there is no defence in civil defence, it's more like an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. And I think whoever's in charge of those plans needs to be resourced properly, and there also needs to be massive local input and decentralised civil defence again back to the communities to give them the power to respond. Yeah.
Do you think areas like Taradale should have been evacuated earlier?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're just lucky that it didn't burst on the Taradale side, because we'd have potentially hundreds dead and thousands of homes destroyed and all those people displaced.
Yeah. So what you want is a clear plan of how they will, because it's going to get worse. I mean, because we've seen more frequency, and we saw some of those bridges were 1 in 100, 1 in 500 years, and they were just smashed as well. So you want a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, I want to see the early warning systems in place with set heights that when the river hits X height, a warning goes out, and then when it hits X height again, they push the button to get gone. We need river evacuation, flood evacuation plans like tsunami plans.
When you rebuild things, what are the personal things you're going to do to ensure that you have warning systems and also evacuation procedures? What will you be doing?
Exactly the same, because they worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I'd do structurally different on my property, but it won't affect the protection of life, more the protection of property, is I'd install more shelter belts, because it stops the debris.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's evident throughout the valley.
Yeah.
But in terms of evacuation plans, I'd keep mine exactly the same, and I'd follow it and do the exact same thing again, because it worked. And that's what I want to see everyone else have access to. And if you've got a plan like that and you follow it, which you should be doing anyway, and you can get out in time. It took over 12 hours for that flood to happen.
Yeah.
There was no flash flood.
Yeah. It started looking like it was going to be really bad, and there was still time to get people out,
Yeah.
if they had moved earlier. Yeah.
Yep, easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
From my place flooding, being covered at 10:30 at night, to the rest for it to even get over the road, was still another basically 2 hours. In 2 hours you can get out easy as.
Because some people were evacuated in other areas, were evacuated at 6, 7 in the morning, so it went on for quite a while,
Well, Esk was flooded before they even sent out the evac text.
Yeah.
For other areas I'm not too au fait with, because my whole concentration's been out in Esk.
Yeah. Now, Dan, will things ever return to normal?
Well, it'll be some sort of new normal.
Yeah.
But will the valley bounce back and look like it did? Yeah, definitely. It'll just look a bit different.
Yeah.
We may not have post and wire with vineyards, or though some people have reinstated their vineyards already. We might not have post and wire orchards. Perhaps we have cropping, perhaps we have avocado orchards, something that's easier to bounce back from. But yeah, I mean, the church has been reinstated. I'm reinstating my place. A lot of the land has been remedied, and yeah, it just won't have the population, because those people will take the buyout, and I imagine that will be the end of those rights under the current settings.
Dan, Gale, thank you so much for your time, and all the best for the future.
Cheers. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.